Have you ever watched one of those movies where a guy's like running a race or running a marathon or something, and they're doing so well and they're right there in the lead and they're coming up on the finish line, and there's that slow motion last stretch, and then they trip on something and fall and stumble and then lose? Yeah. Alright, so here's the video review for ToyWorld's Spear, the last of their 5 Dinobots that forms their giant Dinobot combiner, who has no official name. We're calling him the big guy, I guess. So yeah, it's not all as bad as my little intro bit may have made it sound. There's some really neat stuff that goes on in here. There's a lot of things that are just problematic. And we'll get to those as we go through the review. But here he is in dinosaur mode. You can see from this angle he's actually pretty decent. He's a nice. He's got a nice big wingspan. He's a cool pterodactyl-ish dinosaur. But there's a few, like some of the bits are loose. It's definitely like I love his robot mode. I think as a group in robot mode, ToyWorld's dinos look great together. And even here, like from certain angles, his dinosaur mode, like this, looks pretty decent. He is essentially, and you'll see it from other angles, he is basically a box with wings. And we saw that in the initial pictures. And like I said, there's some angles you can get on him that make him look decent. But at the core of it, he is basically a box with wings. And like I said, I feel like he may be the weakest individual bot of their Dinobot combiner. When I say bot, I just mean in general. Like I said, I think his robot mode's pretty fantastic. But anyway, so here he is. And one of the things you'll notice is he's got some little tabs here on the back of his wings that allow him to store his swords in alt mode. Let me see if I can get this off of here. There's just some little tabs here. It's kind of hard to see. There's a tab on the silver piece here. So you can just attach those there. The missile launchers can plug into these little holes underneath. And there's what I'm talking about with the boxy. His body's just a big box. When you have the wings attached, it does help that impression quite a bit. Eliminating that. He comes with the wings unattached. So when you first pull him out, he literally is just a box with a head, and the wings go on separately. Now the wings peg in back here. Like I said, they don't come attached, and it took me a couple minutes to figure out. The instructions don't show you how to attach them, and they're just some small grayscale transformation pics. And since they don't show you how to attach the wings, it took me a second to figure out how to get in there. You have to lift the arms up around the head to get to the access to the port to plug them in. But like I said, it took a couple minutes, but once you get it figured out, it's not that difficult to actually install them. Now, one of the things you will notice, go ahead and take these missile launchers off just to get them out of the way here. Go ahead and take all the stuff off the wings, take the swords off. I don't know how well it's showing up. Pushing, you can actually see it really well. Pushing the wings in stressed the plastic. You can see that bright stress mark there. Now, it didn't crack the plastic, and it doesn't look like it's something that will get worse. It's just that initial insertion of the pegs into the peg holes back here. So hit that with a hairdryer or something. You can get rid of the stressed plastic, and it shouldn't be a recurring problem. Like, I don't think you're constantly stressing them. I think once you get them and it kind of stretches it out a bit, you should be fine. But one of the first things that kind of made me go, I don't know about that. So yeah, it did stress a little bit. It's not in a place that's really noticeable in a lot of modes. I mean, you can see it if you're looking for it, but it doesn't like just go, oh, it's stressed, like right out of the box or right out of the gate. Now, one of the things I like about the wings here is they're on these dual hinges, that one to kind of help them get around the arms here for alt mode. They've got a hinge here and a hinge here to allow them to be posed in different things. But they've also got a couple different positions. Like this little flap, you can see this little flap right here is pegged in to the peg hole in the opposite of where the swords peg in up here. And you can actually swing this out. And I think this is I think looks the best for his individual alt mode. You can swing him out here, and there's another peg hole right down here, a little divot where you can kind of tab that in for his combined mode. which is neat that there's an extension of the wings, and then of course this folds up and they fold down for robot mode, and we'll get to that later on. There were a couple. You want to be a little careful because it is easy to be like, oh, the wings fold up, and you see this hinge here. The wings don't fold all the way around on this hinge. That's just enough to like give them some pretty decent range of motion, but it does not actually fold up around it. So you want to make sure that when you're folding the wings down, you use this hinge like this, because if you try to fold the whole thing back, you'll end up snapping this, and you don't want to do that. He's got some posability. His feet are on ball joints and a hinge down here. So it can be a little tricky that first time to get him to stand the way I had him in the opening of the video. Although now he's doing it just fine in all sorts of random poses. But yeah, you have to get the weight distribution right. Once you get it all set up, he'll stay there pretty solidly. But yeah, and he's got the hinge up here, so you've got a pretty decent range of movement in the legs to get them wherever you want them to be in pterodactyl mode. And of course, you can, if you want to have him posed flying, the legs come back just fine. These are his feet. So you can have them flying backwards. His head joint is a little loose. I feel like that's like this joint right here is supposed to be a little stiffer, because like you can get it to kind of in kind of a hunched mode to look like that. You can't get it to look straight forward. It will flop down like that if you don't have him just standing up like that. It will fold down like that pretty easily. But yeah, it's a little. If that joint was a little tighter, and you can tighten that up with some future, but on mine at least, that came out of the box initially pretty tight. Now there is a secondary hinge back there that's mostly for combined mode that you can kind of lift it up a little bit, but the peg back here, he's got a similar peg like this on the back, keeps that secondary hinge from coming up much. So you can kind of get him to stick about like that, but any further than that, you kind of have to lower it down slowly, because if you hold it up like that and just let it fall, just the force will let it go straight down. So yeah, that's an individual tolerance thing. Yours may be tighter, yours may be looser. I don't know. I can only review the one I have in front of me, but it did come out a little loose. He does have a hinge here that allows him to look side to side if you want. And that, just because of the way it works, kind of helps hold his head up too if you have him looking off to one side or the other. But he can look, he can't turn his head all the way around, but he can look a pretty decent range of motion from side to side here using that hinge. This robot head keeps wanting to pop up. So yeah, and that's really about it for his alt mode. And to transform him into robot mode, I'm going to go ahead and fold the feet up against the leg like this. Then these whole chunks unhook and come down out of the side here. So you bring these down, and there's a little latch here. Now you fold them down like this. And there's a little latch here that comes up and locks those together, which is nice. So you fold that down, lock the hinge in, and then rotate them at the thigh. And then once you've done that, you can take this piece, and this piece, again, comes up. And there's a little tab in here that's going to peg into this, that pegs up to extend the legs. That's part of his transformation to arm mode mostly. And then you close these up. And again, there's two pegs here on the inside of the thigh that these close over. So just like that, this leg stays on the back. This piece rotates down, and again, there's a tab under here that this tabs onto. Oh wait, I did this wrong. Fold it down like this, because the tab's on the inside here. Tab it in like this. You got to rotate the foot around. Hinge it like that. Rotate it around like that, and then rotate it under. And that brings his robot foot underneath his leg. There's an easier way to do that. I may have just had that starting off in the wrong position. Yeah, bring that down, tab it around. Nope, this way. And there's his legs done. On the upper body, you lift his head up. These pieces right here, again, these pieces are really loose too. They tab in and they stay pretty solidly, but it didn't take much to knock them loose. But these come down, and again, there's a little tab here that these tab onto. Not super securely, but enough to hold them in place. So that folds down and forms his chest. The dinosaur head comes down, and then it folds down. It actually is on a double hinge up here in front of his head. There's one hinge right here and one hinge up in the head, and that gives it the extra clearance to come down. And there's a tab right here on his chest you tab his dinosaur head onto. And the arms, like I said, you lift them up, and this is how you get them to attach here, attach the wings here onto the arms, but you unpeg them together. And there's an armature here that rotates. It helps if you rotate the wings down a little bit on whichever side you're working on. And that gives you the room to rotate this armature out and then down to form his shoulder. And again, we'll show it on this side. Again, rotate this wing back up, rotate this wing down. So you want to lift this up, and this you have to rotate this piece right here at the screw like that, and then fold the armature down. Just like that. Tap his head back on. Come on. Okay, I don't want to tap on very securely. And then here's where you can take this, fold this panel up around like this, and fold the wings down to sit on his back. And again, because of the way these are, you can actually pull these in a little bit if you don't want them sitting all the way out on his back. You can have them, you can extend them so they're all the way out here, or you can fold them in so they're kind of more just on his back. There we go. And getting his hands out. Now here's something that I'm very proud of them for finally innovating on their toys. He's got a tab here, so when you open this up, you can just easily flip his fist out, and you don't have to use a weapon or anything to pull the hands out. Now, the drawback to that is there's no tab for the flap underneath here when you need to fold those hands back up. There's like a little tiny bit, but it doesn't have a hook or anything to get a grip on. I found that you can use the swords to kind of get in there and open up that panel, but so they reverse the problem. They give you tabs to flip the hands out, but then the way the hands sit, no matter how you rotate it, you just can't get in there to get at that panel. I guess that kind of worked. But yeah, it's much more difficult now to open up the panel to fold them back in. So a little bit of a trade-off there. But there he is in robot mode, and really nice. I like his red face. I like the layout. The colors look nice. He's a good, solid-looking robot. Like I said, robot mode, I think they did really well. In robot mode, these guys look all great together. Now, the missile launchers you can tab into his hands like this. He also comes with 2 of the swords. Now, the swords, they can still store on the back of his wings, so if you just want to have him store a sword back there, you can. Unfortunately, like if he's not holding this, there's no real other place to clip these in on his body or store it. So if you don't have him holding the 2 guns and storing the swords on his back, the guns are going to be kind of off to the side because I can't find any other peg hole. The instructions certainly don't show any of where to fingers. I was hoping maybe like if these little circular sections had a deeper divot in it, you could probably, it's about the right size to peg onto here. So maybe a missed opportunity. Maybe they didn't originally intended to and changed it for some reason, because yeah, that would be just the right size to fit on one of these pegs and store back here if it weren't maybe 0.5 millimeter deep. Oh well. But overall, I like his robot mode. It looks like Swoop. I can't really argue with that. Like, he does have kind of thick legs, again, due to his being an arm, but it doesn't really detract from his robot mode. He's got a really nice looking, shiny robot mode here. See if we can get the colors balanced a little better here. There we go. Looking a little washed out. So yeah, again, Fans Project code, since he's right over here to the side, just to give you an idea of the size of him. He's a little bigger. They're roughly Voyager-esque sized robots. I showed the instruction sheet very briefly. That comes in the box. He comes in the same styrofoam and big box as all the others. The sticker and the little bio card are in the box. I meant to do that earlier in the video review, but I forgot. But yeah, he's also an arm, so we'll go ahead and get him into that real quick. And to do that, you get his wings off, because those are going to go on the back of the combiner, allegedly. The swords come off to the sides. Oh, one of the other swords over here. I guess you could still keep them on there. So just basically just fold his hands back up. Okay, so now have a better idea of how to get in under there. It still takes a little doing, but how do I do that? There we go. So fold his hands up. His arms are going to stay out to the side. Fold his dinosaur head back up. And again, there's that dual hinge. You fold it up on that hinge and in up against his robot mode face. And it stays fairly decently. So bring that up like that. These panels come up back onto the top. And then if you lift his dinosaur head all the way up, that's what gives you access to the combiner port. So flip that out, and then just kind of angle his head up like that. And then the legs, I'm going to fold the feet back up. Again, this is where, how do we do that? We rotated this around. Oh, there we go, just like that. Yeah, see, very easy going back to leg mode, so I should remember how I did that. So yeah, just lift this up, fold this flat, like this, and then that pegs onto there. Let's rotate around until that pegs on, and there you go. The arms rotate around and fold up. And this is the official transformation for these. It looks like you could possibly peg his arm. There is a small screw hole there that if this were offset just a little bit, you could peg in there, but no. But the arms turn around and fold up like this. And again, this is the official transformation instructions. It is entirely possible to take just like not put the missile launchers on the back and put his arms on the back like alt mode, but that does expose a lot more blue, and I feel like doing it this way actually does help conceal some of the blue and make it look a little bit more integrated into the alt mode, the combine mode. And then the missile launchers peg in right down here. You can take a little bit of pushing to get them in, and you just peg those onto either side. And then the lower half of the body, you open these up. And here's where I was talking about this piece. You just kind of collapse these up onto the hips and then close those back up. Because these are going to be the tabs that the combine mode hand pegs onto. So you open those up, collapse them, and then you peg these two sections together like this. And just like their slag, you pull them down at the waist, and that exposes a hidden elbow joint, which I love that they did that. Again, that's one of the marks in its favor, is that hidden elbow joint that doesn't affect the robot mode, but makes it a lot more posable. He's got the waist swivel. I forgot to go over articulation in robot mode. So in robot mode, he's got the front to back shoulder swivel, a ratchet side to side on the things, obviously the bicep swivel, elbows, and the wrists do swivel and the fingers do open like that. And he's got knees, a waist swivel, and of course the foot has some ankle tilt and forward and back tilt, as well as the toe here, just due to the way it transforms. So there he is, basically in arm mode, and then you take the fist and you plug it onto these two pegs down here. Just like that. And there you have his arm. The last arm. And since it is the last arm, of course, let's just spin the camera off to the side here. Because there is the big Mamma Jamma himself. And let's focus on him here. See if we can get my hand in there. For some reason, having my hand in there tends to give it a little bit better color recognition of how the room actually looks. See if we can get him off a little bit of an angle so he's not so back cluttered with all the pledge stuff. So yeah, and then you just take him. Here he is with all the other ones. Now, building up to this point, having these guys here, you put this together and you're like, oh man, just one arm away. This thing's pretty awesome. Spear is where it starts to fall apart, because in this mode, like, he's fairly stable. He does have a few, if you move him around too much, wobbly connection issues. But for the most part, this was a pretty solid. Right up next there with their throttlebot combiner. The problem is once you add the weight of Spear, and we'll go ahead and do that now. That's when you can see, that's when he starts to lose it. He's leaning forward. Just that little bit of extra weight puts him, let's see if we can bring this around here. Puts him at, now he's kind of lurching forward a little bit, which is a little disappointing. And trying to get him to stand straight. Because if you click him back, even just one click back at either the knee or the hips, then he's going backwards. He's very top heavy. So, like I said, just trying to click him back, one click at the hip. And if you click one leg back at the hip, that kind of holds him a little bit more securely, but because one leg is clicked back at the hip, now he kind of starts to lean to one side. So getting him to stand up straight, and I guess if you spread that leg out just a little bit, again, you can get him to stand, and he's a little bit more stable in this case, and this should sit back up like that a little bit better. But now he's kind of in this weird, again, like kind of bent knee off to one side type of stance, and his leg, with this leg going back, one leg's looking straight, one leg's going back, and it looks a little awkward. And then the wings themselves, again, you can extend them all the way out to their full extension for this. And then these pegs right here are intended to peg in to his back parts, into these two peg holes right here in the center of his back. And that's where, one, it's nice to have, like, with these double hinges, it also gives them the extension to get in there, but they still have to come around these panels right here, which, again, can't collapse much further into the body because of the arms and such on these two guys. And you plug it in, and then it just makes them sit way too far back, because even when you get them all the way plugged in, the hinge here is obstructed by his elbow. You can't, or his dinosaur elbow, you can't get this up high enough really to get out of the way. You can kind of tilt it in a little bit, and you can give it, you can angle this piece a little bit to bring it more around. But yeah. And that's if the pegs do not peg in very tightly. This peg is not deep enough to really hold this peg all the way. It only comes about halfway up the peg. So they like to fall out. And, or just not hold very well. I have found that you can rotate his dinosaur hands to kind of make a little hook under his wing to support it. And if you do that, they'll actually stay on pretty decently. They won't droop or fall or anything. Don't worry, we'll get a whole picture of this. I'm mostly showing the connection right now. Sorry for saying so much. But yeah, this side especially just does not want to hold. And as you see, as you start to wiggle it, that's when all those other loose connections start coming into play, and his knees fall off, and then you got to get those back on, which you can do, but just the process of wiggling him around to get everything attached makes him start coming apart. The arms stay on fairly securely, which is nice, I guess. But like I said, everything was looking great. And that's where my marathon metaphor from the opening came from. Everything about this was looking pretty cool up until Spear came out. Is that all the way in? Yeah, I guess it is. All right, so we'll get his arm on there. See, now I'm just trying to get him in a stable enough position that I feel okay pulling my hands away from him and showing him off, because he really does not want to stand very well. You can find areas of balance where he'll stay okay. And now he's just wanting to fall forward even worse. Like, at least earlier I still got him in something of a solid state. Okay, close enough. This wing's coming out. So you see my dilemma. I want him so bad to be really cool. Because aesthetically, like I said, now that with the gray covering the blue, Spear doesn't stand out as much. He could be really great. He really could. but it just doesn't work. He's coming out of the foot. Let me get that wing piece real quick. See if we can get that reattached. I just had such high hopes from being cooler than this. And just a little bit of a letdown. Like I said, individually, as Dinobots, these are really cool. I like them as a nice, updated set of G1 Dinobots on my shelf. The combiner aspect loses me. And I'm sorry if I don't know where this is in the frame right now because I'm behind it. I apologize for that. It's just a matter of getting all this stuff together so I can get him around and show him off a little bit more. I don't know why I need to. So yeah, like I said, if you're buying these for the robots, by all means, you made the right choice. If you're buying it for a giant combiner Dinobot, maybe save your money. I mean, if the combine mode is your entire attraction to this, then maybe, there we go. Yeah, hang off. I mean, like, look at his legs. Like, Snarl's kind of janking to the right there. It just, he could have been so cool. Like I said, the basic design I like. The wings, I feel like I may just collapse. If I'm going to have to store them somewhere, I may fold them down into like Swoop's robot mode thing and just kind of leave them folded up on the back. Because they don't look, everything else about him screams giant brute. And those wings look like butterfly wings. They just don't look aggressive enough, I feel, for... like, Predaking has those big, spreading, feathery, predator wings. And he's just got these weird... Even if these came to points on the end, they might look a little bit more aggressive and fit a little better. They just look... They look neutered. They don't add... Like, Predaking's wings make him look more impressive, and the wings on this one don't. So that's one of the drawbacks, too. All in all, like I said, Spear by himself is a nice addition to the team. I think individually as robots, they're all very good, solid figures. The combiner falls apart a little bit, and I wish I could say it were better than that, but it's just not. Their Throttlebot combiner I thought was really good. He's really super stable in combine mode, and he looks awesome. And like I said, this guy could look awesome. I mean, he does look awesome. He just doesn't support himself. Maybe that's an issue with mine. If there are any tips or tricks that anybody has figured out, please let me know. I'll try them. But for the most, like I said, the base robot I think looks cool. I think the wings look ridiculous on him. And I wish he could stand properly once you attach Spear. And everything was going so great. And just that extra weight from Spear makes him kind of go... So yeah, there you go.